Out of the north came a sound of distant planes roaring nearer and nearer. Wave after wave of planes swarmed the sky. Somebody yelled, "Hit the dirt." Turned out they were our planes. We gazed skyward and saw the 4-engine bombers glistening silver. Fighter planes overtook the bombers, flashing underneath, overhead, and ahead of the formation, and the fighters slid across the sky in a long stream, bearing off at a slant to the south while another swarm of them appeared high over the stately bombers. Our boys were here. On October 14th, the U.S. came back with a large force of fighters and bombers. Glancing skyward, we watched the planes overhead as they roared by. The Japanese soldiers were jittery and appeared to be at a loss on just what to do. The fighters buzzed over us and tipped their wings time and time again. They tipped their wings as if to salute to us and say, "Hold on, it won't be long."
And so, on the evening of January 30th, 1945, Colonel Henry Mucci's 6th Army Ranger Battalion, led by Captain Robert Prince, raided the Cabanatuan prison camp to liberate at least 512 Allied POWs who were still there.
At 7:30 p.m., our entire camp was in the throes of a great panic. Overhead, we heard the sound of one of our planes, then a bomb dropped along the road below our camp. The men were running around in circles, some praying. They didn't know where to run. A few crawled under the building while others huddled on the floor. Finally, the firing stopped. We heard voices. "This way, men! Head for the cut fence!" Rugged American soldiers had to force some of the men out of the building. Some of the men, still weary, thought the Japanese had begun a mass execution. Before we could regain our semblance of composure, we glanced at the incredulous men in green uniforms and strange hats who were bearing down on us. As we climbed over the bodies of dead Japanese, a ranger yelled, "We're Yanks, now get moving! If you don't, I'll carry you out! We're to bring out every man at all costs, even our own lives! Now let's go!"
But we didn't know, we just didn't know whether it was guerrillas or Japanese or what was going on. Until we saw the big guys and they had a white cloth tied around their arm, and they said they were all blackened up and they're all black. And they said that we're the American Rangers, we come to get you out of here, go to the main gate. So I rushed right down to my ward to see who could, how many was in the ward down there. And there was a man down there that was sitting there screaming that he wanted to get out of there, and he didn't have any legs. He no legs, and then one of them was there. He had one leg, and I had a heart patient. But there was a ranger down there, and his job was to check that ward to see that everybody got out. And we put those 3 guys on this litter, and out the gate we went, north to out of the camp to the river, until we got to on the other side of the river. They had the Carabao cards. The Filipinos was helping, real good. They knew we was getting out of the camp. They had the Carabao there, and the carts full of straw. And anybody that couldn't walk, we threw them in the Carabao cards. I didn't ride the Carabao cards, I walked.
About 100 yards out, they were met by an extremely proud Colonel Henry Mucci, who had waited in the rice fields watching the operation. Now he rose up and greeted the prisoners and their liberators. Mucci projected the sort of steady confidence and air of authority that the skittish prisoners needed as they emerged into the world. Amazingly, all of the Allied POWs were rescued alive by the Rangers, although one hid and was rescued the next day by Filipino guerrillas, and at least 2 died shortly after the raid. Equally incredible, although some Rangers were injured in the raid, only 2 were killed. Army Surgeon Jimmy Fisher, who had insisted on participating in the assault, was killed. Corporal Roy Sweezy, who was tragically hit by what was probably the last bullet fired in the raid, was a victim of friendly fire. Sergeant A.B. Abraham, after a brief reunion with his wife and 2 daughters, who had also been held captive by the Japanese for those 4 years, was not allowed to go home back to the United States and earned the nickname the Ghost of Bataan through his next assignment, graves registration, retracing the route of the death march, disinterring graves, and registering the names for the families and loved ones.
I wanted to go home. They said, "No, you're not going." What happened was a certain Colonel Darling knew me years ago, and he's the one who helped me up.
4 days later, I went back. No soap. What happened? He told General MacArthur, I had the man for you.